My name is Kamal Ahmed. I'm a managing director at GCA Savvian, a boutique investment bank. And I have the distinct pleasure of the easiest job here, because I don't have to come up with any ideas. I just have to ask questions. So thank you for joining us. The theme of today's panel is VC funding of IoT companies. And we've got a great group of panelists here to join us. Let me just, since we don't have a lot of time, if you don't mind, I'll just do your introductions for you, and then you can add or subtract if you desire. Let me start with Kumar Malavalli. Kumar, I don't think needs much of an introduction. He's a distinguished entrepreneur, having founded Brocade. He is a noted technologist. He is a philanthropist, an inspiration to many people in Silicon Valley. And if I had to go through all of his accolades, we'd take up the whole 30 minutes. So I'll just end it there. Rajiv Khemani is a combination of venture capitalist and an operator. He's currently doing both. He has had senior executive positions at Savvian and Intel, but at the moment he's the founder of an infrastructure company called Innovium, and he is also a partner at Moment Venture Capital. And then finally, let me present Dharmesh. Dharmesh is at Battery Ventures, a firm that doesn't need an introduction. I think all of you have heard of Battery. He is a through and through venture capitalist, most recently serving as a managing director at Intel Capital. So I think we've got a nice spectrum of people here. We have the entrepreneur and operator. We have on the other end of the panel the through and through venture capitalist, and then we have Rajiv, who is perhaps confused, but trying to do both at the same time. Yeah. We'll call him the hybrid guy. So let's just jump into the questions. So I guess one question that comes to mind is, Silicon Valley obviously started as an area that was born through hardware innovation. And, for a long time, there's been a dearth of venture capital going into hardware. Obviously, the semiconductor venture capital environment is completely dead. Hardware in general perhaps is having a tough time in certain areas. Rajiv, given your background, having spent a lot of time in hardware, what do you think IoT does for the opportunity set for hardware companies? Is there an emerging opportunity in hardware for startups? And are venture capital companies going to be interested in funding these stories?
So, the reason that people shifted their investment, venture capitalists shifted investing from hardware into software companies, that's the general trend in the last few years, is that software is very capital efficient. You can iterate very quickly. With a small amount of investment, you can get to a situation where you have a sense of whether this is going to happen or not, and then put more money behind it. So that was the fundamental reason why people shifted their investing into software. Hardware, on the other hand, and hardware, broadly speaking, you can look at it as semiconductors as well as systems. In the semiconductor space, what has happened is the cost of building their initial product has gone up dramatically because of the leading process technology nodes and the amount of IP that you need to put together. It has gone up. And the penalty for a mistake or a penalty for finding out whether this product is going to succeed or not is very high because you have to make a huge amount of investment. And on the system side, things have really become more commoditized, and the cloud has come and tried to replace some of the purpose-built systems that happened in the past. Now, your question is, what does IoT do to that? I think IoT has made purpose-built devices sexy again, things like Nest and so forth, a variety of devices. I'm an investor indirectly in a couple of companies, a company called Tile, which tries to help you keep not lose your objects, and then another one which is targeting the jewelry space in the IoT fashion. And that has made it sexy again. So the success of Oculus recently has made VCs take another look at this space. But again, the idea is that if there are interesting products that are solving consumer or business problems, people are willing to make investments in hardware products, not so much in the semiconductor space.
Dharmesh,
Yeah,
you want to add something?
Yeah, so I agree with most of what Rajiv said. I would also encourage the audience to think about it slightly differently in the context of IoT, which is a lot of VCs aren't investing in hardware for the sake of selling hardware. I think IoT brings up this opportunity where you invest in a combination of hardware and software, and the solution itself has a much larger value to the customer. So for instance, I invested in a company called Enlighted very early on. It's a combination of low-power sensors, which are now deployed across 70 million square feet in most new buildings like Google, LinkedIn, AT&T, HP, and others. And while the hardware itself, it's capital intensive relative to building software, it's 10% of the bill of materials, and the value it provides in terms of using these sensors to collect light levels, temperature levels, security levels, then enables them to sell 5 other software modules. So the lifetime value of the solution to the customer is significantly higher, and the solution value to, including the hardware and the software, opens up a much larger opportunity. So you can't think of hardware in the context of IoT just by itself. It's what part of the solution that enables. And from a VC perspective, if hardware is kind of, it's a small piece of the bill of materials, but it opens up a much larger market opportunity, it's well worth it. And so there's hybrid hardware software solutions in the IoT space, seem to make sense to a VC as well.
So that's a great point, Dharmesh. Just expanding on that a little bit, buying something out of the box, if it's a consumer product, generally the consumer expects value when they open that box up. Now, is there a balancing act in your mind in terms of business model when the seller is now trying to build in a ongoing revenue stream and get you signed up as a subscriber as well once you've opened the box? Or is there enough value to be captured up front in the sale, or is that ongoing revenue stream or subscription fee a necessary part of the equation?
In the consumer market?
Yes, in the consumer market.
Yeah. Look, so I don't invest heavily in the consumer electronics industry per se, but I can give you my perspective as an end customer, for instance, right? So when I bought my first $200 drop cam, it was great to just get kind of a very clear view of what's going on in my house, and if my kids were throwing a havoc or what have you, all on my phone. And so by itself, it was pretty valuable, right? But then that itself provided significant kind of delight instantly, if you will, which justified the price for it. But beyond that, paying another $99 for cloud storage a year is like a small thing in the grand scheme of things. So the whole concept of giving you hardware that delights you immediately, getting you hooked, and then using that as a way to upsell a cloud storage service or what have you, I think that's a hybrid model that companies like Dropcam have done very well. And so I certainly subscribe to paying for a combination of the two, versus maybe on a GoPro, you're much more interested in the upfront hardware purchase, not necessarily the ongoing recurring revenue.
Okay, well, thank you. So Kumar, let me address a question to you, just maybe taking a step back, since perhaps you have a broader perspective, having seen different technology cycles. In terms of the bigger segment and market perspective, what is your view on consumer in general? I mean, IoT consumer stories like wearables have received several $100 million of funding, yet Cisco, which is perhaps one of the most prolific IoT investors, along with a couple of other big names, and it's interesting because in IoT, corporate venture capital tends to play a bigger role than it has in other areas. They have decidedly avoided the consumer space. Now, there's obviously synergy reasons for that, but there's a perspective out there that all this money going into consumer is just not going to return an ROIC, which is as good as perhaps some of the areas in the infrastructure market, healthcare, industrial, public safety, et cetera. What's your view on consumer? Is that a place where if I'm starting in a company, I should spend time?
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. On the contrary, because I can give you my background, because I am not only the founder and chief strategy officer for the company called Glassbeam. Glassbeam, and also I'm an investor. That's why I'm here. We have a group of angel investors. We are not a VC, but we are a group of angels who made the investment in the company, mainly because we found the differentiation between consumer IoT and industrial IoT. When I mean industrial IoT, I'm not talking about wearables, I'm not talking about energy meters, I'm talking about complex machines that are connected on the network that produces a lot of data. So what we do is to take the data and structurize the data and then convert the data into useful information by doing the analytics. There's a big market out there because we are getting very good traction. We call it industrial IoT, but not the consumer IoT. But the thing is, going forward, when you build a platform which does the analytics with the security added, that platform easily can be used in the consumer IoT as well. So although there's a lot of attention is given in the consumer side of the IoT, but there's a lot of traction which public doesn't see. It is happening in the industrial IoT. For example, we are working with big companies like IBM, Hitachi Data System, and VCE, and some of the healthcare companies, and also Aruba Network to do the analytics on the Wi-Fi routers. So they all have the common denominator is to provide, to have the predictive analytics. So what we do is it's not just doing the analytics, predictive analytics and also prescriptive analytics. What we mean by prescriptive analytics is prescribe what is to be done when you find out some anomaly in the operation, when you find out if some device is going to break down. So there's a lot of value to be added. So we are coming from industrial IoT, moving towards toward the consumer IoT. As a matter of fact, to confirm what I'm saying, just recently we're getting traction in consumer IoT as well. Three companies that we signed the contract with. One of them is the heart monitoring device in the hospital. Second one is the robotics in the manufacturing. Third one, lo and behold, is do the analytics on the car charging stations. So we are gradually moving from industrial IoT to consumer IoT. There is a bridge that is happening right now.
So Rajiv, if I just follow the thinking around this industrial internet or industrial IoT, and now everything is connected, the 50 billion devices by 2020, so now we've got massive amounts of raw unstructured data coming into the cloud. Combine that with the fact that people like Kumar are running all sorts of crazy analytics on this. Is the existing infrastructure, networking infrastructure, and compute infrastructure, storage infrastructure, are those all optimized today to handle all of this? And if not, what needs to be done?
No, I think that's an excellent question, and thanks for teeing it up, because so you mentioned I'm confused or a hybrid type of a role, and what I'm doing in both of the functions that I'm doing on the venture side and on the hardware side is really addressing the problem statement that you highlighted, which is that the rate at which the data is increasing is very, very fast, and I think people have thrown out statistics like the amount of data that has been generated in the last 2 years has been more than ever before in the history of civilization, things of that type. And so the thing is that if this rate continues, the existing cloud infrastructure is simply not going to be able to handle all of this stuff. If you continue to use the products that are available today, we will get into a situation where the energy consumption in the data centers is going to be prohibitive. The cost is going to be prohibitive, and the consumer expectations are simply not going to be met. So there's innovation that's needed in the cloud infrastructure, and cloud infrastructure involves compute, network, and storage. In all of these areas, there's dramatic breakthrough type innovation that's happening, and on the hardware side of things, that's where my company is focused on. Very capital intensive product to really provide a 3 to 5x or a 10x relative to the infrastructure today in the cloud. Now on the software side, we talk about all this data happening, and that is going to continue to happen. And I think that I want to add to a couple of points that Dharmesh and Kumar made, which is that You know, when you say IoT, IoT is typically referred to as a horizontal thing. And Dharmesh, just before we started this thing, was saying it's kind of the hot topic of the year. Used to be clean tech was there 3 years ago. It used to be big data last year. This year it's IoT. But the fact of the matter is, if you take a look at something like Nest, is that really a clean tech? Yeah, it's a clean tech. It helps save you energy and makes you feel comfortable. Is it big data? Yeah, because you can actually see how your energy consumption has happened over a period of time. And is it IoT? Yes, it is. So I think the issue is that what we need to do across consumer and commercial is not get carried away by these acronyms, but really as an entrepreneur, you ought to focus on solving a specific vertical problem. You know, whether it's in infrastructure for drones. We just made an investment in a software company building the infrastructure on drones, on cloud infrastructure, taking care of things like regulation of drones, insurance for drones, you know, the elastic utilization of drones and so forth. And they're solving a very specific problem working with NASA and the big drone manufacturers and so forth. And that's how it's going to happen. But you need the hardware infrastructure to move at the same pace along with that.
Great. Well, this is a question for each of you. So you can go in whichever order you like. What if you had to pick the holy grail problem in IoT? So I'm starting with a clean sheet of paper. I see this great IoT opportunity. I have, let's say, infinite resources in terms of people that I can go to that have expertise in all the different functional areas. Where are the dollars and where is the opportunity set in IT? Where would you, what problem would you be trying to solve?
Okay. Can I go? Yeah. Okay. So definitely, although there are three areas of problem, pitfalls that I see, is one is security. Definitely. Internet, industrial security, internet security is the implementation of that and solving the problem different from cybersecurity. Because when 50 billion devices are connected, and it's a good invitation for the hackers to come and steal or damage and all kinds of bad things. That's one thing. That's the major pitfall that I see. Second one is related to that is privacy. Also, because now the Nest is coming into the picture. Now, because it's connected, it's solving your problem, but also because it's on the network, people can enter. You can hack it and then enter into your home. So where is the privacy? Where is the security? So that has to be solved. Third one is the power consumption. All these 50 billion devices, we had to somehow come out with the new technologies. For example, people are also trying the resonant magnetic technology to be able to provide the power to the connected devices through nearness of the situation. So we cannot change the battery. You don't know when the right time, if the battery runs out, what are you going to do? So that's a major problem: the power, privacy, and the most importantly, security, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'll take, what Kumar mentioned were a number of enabling technologies that I would say are common across a lot of different IoT applications, across different industries. And I think there will be solutions to that that will be very successful. The one point I would add to that is that you want to build solutions for security that comprehend both the PCs and phones as well, because the revenue model in the IoT is still in the very early stages. So if you build a product that is security for IoT, unless you're solving it in the context of a specific application, you might not get the revenue, or it might take too long for the revenue to happen. But if you are able to do it in an evolutionary revenue fashion, but in a revolutionary capability fashion, the chances of success are much greater. So that's one way to think about some of these enabling technologies. Now, you can also take a look at where the opportunity is in IoT in kind of the vertical sectors. And if you just do a simple Wikipedia on how the US GDP is distributed across different sectors, you'll see that, for example, real estate is number one by far. So there's opportunities in real estate. Certainly, a lot of the successful companies have addressed real estate. Is your sprinkler going to turn on if it's raining or not? Is your heating going to turn on and off? So real estate is one, but a couple of very interesting areas in my view are, of course, healthcare and transportation. And there's going to be tremendous opportunities in making sure that there is, predictive capability and like your mom is with you telling you to wake up and do your exercise because you're no longer staying with your mom, and there's going to be IoT devices that will do that for you. So those, in my view, are some of the big opportunities where if you kind of dig deeper and find specific problems, you can build great businesses.
Yeah, I think just to continue on Rajiv's topic, so look, I've been in the venture business 8 years now, and the one thing I notice being in the Valley, and this pertains to a number of the entrepreneurs here, is people do what they know best. And so in the Valley, a lot of us get carried away by better networking, better power. It's all very important, right? But ultimately, people pay for solving a business problem. Security is very important, but it will be a lot more important when you have 20 billion devices as opposed to now. So what I've noticed over time is, some of the most successful companies are the ones where you start from a foundation of what you know best, whether it's security or analytics or what have you. But I would almost break down, to your question, what are the two biggest opportunities if I were to start from a clean sheet of paper? Let me put myself in your shoes and say, am I a consumer-oriented entrepreneur, or do I want to sell to businesses, right? I think in the consumer space, I think, in my opinion, the biggest opportunity is healthcare-oriented applications. So if you look at where we are as a country, you look at the aging population, the baby boomers, and you look at this sector as one where there's a tremendous amount of data that's available, not just from your wearable devices, but now your iPhone 6 also has a lot of data about your, how many steps you walked in a day or what have you. You have the ability of mining that data, and there's a market that's willing to pay for the problem. Right? So if you put the combination of those three things together, where is there the most amount of data? Where do I have the ability to mine it? And who's willing to pay for it? I think there's $600 billion or so of value that is to be unlocked. That's what McKinsey says, at least, in healthcare. By leveraging your data to proactively tell you that, hey, if you only walked 1/3 the number of steps of other people in the same demographics in this part of the country, you have a much higher chance of developing blood pressure. How much will you pay for that? I think it's significant. You may not want to pay for it, but insurance companies certainly want to pay for it, so we can do preventative medicine. So I think healthcare is certainly one area on the consumer side where there's a tremendous amount of opportunity on the IoT side. And if you decided you want to sell to businesses, I think just kind of high-value manufacturing is one area where, we've been managing with pneumatic controls for the longest time. Think about an Intel fab. You've got a $7 billion fab where each of these wafers is worth, 10, 20 million bucks, right? If I had a sensor on each of these equipment in a 300-step process, which could collect all the data, I now have the ability to mine it and proactively tell you the best 2 hours in the day where you can bring down this machine, where it's going to have a minimal impact and it's going to improve your revenue and profit by 50 million bucks, is those 3 machines. I think there's a tremendous amount of value in applying that analytics to IoT in the manufacturing context. So the core theme here is what's different between IoT 1.0 and 2.0 is you now have a tremendous number of devices, but more importantly, you have infinite cloud resources and infinite resources to crunch that data. So business problems that can take advantage of crunching that data, developing a good ROI, like in healthcare or high-value manufacturing, I think those are the biggest opportunities, that data plane and the analytics plane.
Thank you, Dharmesh. That was great. We just have a few minutes left, so I wanted to open it up to audience questions, and I noticed that none of the questions that have been submitted so far have anything to do with IoT, but more with the venture capital industry in general. So given that's where the interest is, maybe we should just jump into some of these questions. Actually, a couple of them are quite interesting. One question from the audience is, what can VCs do to support minority-led and or women-led companies?
Invest in them. That's what we can do. No, I think, look, at Battery, we've been around for 30 years. We manage over $4.5 billion, and obviously we're looking for the most profitable opportunities or what have you, but it's very encouraging to see a number of enterprises, a number of entrepreneurs that I think are women-led or minority-led for the first time in a very long time. So we certainly do our fair share. We have a general partner who's a woman, and we have a number of portfolio companies, Six Sense, and many others that are women-led as well. So while we're always looking for profit maximizing opportunities like most VCs are, I think it's very encouraging to see a very healthy mix of women in the CEO seat or the executive seat, and we do our part to support that.
Great. Another question. Where are we in the VC cycle? What's your view on kind of the 3 to 5 year outlook for VCs in terms of fund formation, the survivability of existing VCs, increasing investment into VCs and out of VCs? What's your prognosis?
Well, what I would say is that the overall market right now is hot, right? Whether you want to call it a boom or a bubble is a debatable topic, but the overall market is hot. The private company valuations are very high. Now, whether they're justified or not, only time will tell, and if there is going to be a correction or not. So in terms of the 3 to 5 year outlook, of course, it's very hard to predict, but the expectation is that there will be some level of a correction in that time window. I think that businesses that, I think the VCs are a little better this time around relative to the 99, 2000 time frame in investing in businesses that have real revenue potential and revenue capability and are driving those things. So I expect that it won't be as bad as the 2001 crash, but I think it's time for correction and there will be some shakeout over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes, I would say, look, there's tactical adjustments in market, but what I would say, if you take a long-term view, and we certainly have a very long-term view on our 10th fund now, over the last 30 years, we kind of raised a $900 million or so fund the last few times. What is different this time around, which is very encouraging, is that enterprises and consumers are buying at a pace that we haven't seen in a long time. I can't tell you how many CIOs I see at Fortune 500 companies that want to try out a new solution from a new cloud vendor or a new IoT vendor. And I think it's a reflection of the fact that in 2008, 9, 10, when we went through the last recession, a lot of large companies kind of put a halt on their R&D. And in 2011, 12, when they woke up, some of the best engineers had left and started some very bright companies. And large companies were not able to address their issues. So I think this phenomena of enterprises deploying a significant amount of capital in deploying new startup solutions is very encouraging. Market valuations are ahead of themselves, but fundamentally, if these companies can stay disciplined, not burn too much money, focus on the long run, raise money when you can, and focus on solving customer problems, I think this market, I think we're in a secular cycle for an uptick over here. There might be a correction, I think, not necessarily a crash, but again, as entrepreneurs, you focus on solving fundamental customer issues, and they're willing to buy, which I think is very different this time around and very positive.
Yeah, I'll talk about a slightly different thing related to VC investment. The thing is, I encourage the VCs to look at innovation part of the presentation given by the young entrepreneurs such as yourself. See, for example, if you take IoT, for example, there are so many areas need to be innovated. For example, machine learning. Machine learning is a big thing. There's a lot of opportunity there. Machine learning, it changes depending on the application. So that has to have big evolution. So there is a big opportunity for the entrepreneurs. Second area is database, for example. The existing databases like provided by Oracle and others doesn't fit, but people are just trying to fit that into the IoT solution. But like Cassandra is another example. There is a need for new type of database. And then there's also what is required is the new application APIs that are required. That is another area. Then another big area, the presentation layer. For the common user, you can do all the analytics. When you convert that into useful information, how is it presented? There's a big opportunity there in coming out with a new presentation layer. We are, because of nothing else is available, we are using Tableau. That's a great product, but there is the opportunity for innovation there. These are the other areas. Again, I talked about the power and miniaturizing the sensors, including embedded in that the like Bluetooth, for example. to make it more usable. And also there is a new thing that's coming up called NFC, near field communication. Those are the areas had to be integrated into IoT. There is a lot of these areas where you can innovate and then create new startups and then become successful. That's my advice to the entrepreneurs here.
Thank you very much. So we're out of time. I'm sorry we couldn't get to more of your questions. Let's just take a minute to thank the panelists for joining us today. Thank you for organizing such a wonderful event, and appreciate all of your times today.